it's Textile Tuesdays, a special edition. I am so excited. So we have some pieces to show you guys. We're going to take you down a little memory lane in fashion history. So stay tuned. So we're here with Shon, the owner of the Costume House. So give us your resume. Like, how did you get started?
Well, bad luck. As I always say, I was an actor, and I went to work for a small costume company in Pasadena called Somewhere in Time. And that just escalated with me working with a friend and getting into some theater stuff and doing shows, and she was doing some costume things, and I had some, and we liked doing it. And that evolved into this business, 30 years later. But I've been able to do some pretty amazing things.
Yeah, run down your resume to us, because I want them to know who you are and what you've done.
I've been doing this for 34 years.
Okay.
I started when I was 19, and I'm not anymore. I worked on waxwork. It was one of the first films I worked on when I was like 21 and 22 at A.R.M. My first film was Lobster Man from Mars. So I started in the horror genre. I've done over 400 and some theater pieces, multi-award-winning costume designer in theater.
Nice.
I just joined the Costume Designers Guild after 30 years, and people are like,
give me some of that. Give me some of that.
All good. And we just completed Encore for Disney, which is running now, and you'll actually see me in some of the episodes because we're actually filming live theater, doing a musical in 5 days, which was pretty crazy. But fun. And I have taught at the Academy of Art College for about 4 or 5 years in San Francisco. I taught basically costume design for film and theater, but a lot of history with that, because that's very important. Okay. And we just do all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, you never know from what day to what day. I'm actually working on Del Shore's new show.
Congrats.
And a new show for Stephen Sachs, The Fountain. So, and I think one of my biggest accomplishments that I'm very proud of is I've done like about 4 or 5 Athol Fugard world premiere shows.
Wow.
And you'll know Athol Fugard for the Sermon show Master Harold and the Boys.
Wow.
And we were able to do the world premiere of Exits and Entrances.
Wow.
Which went to the Edinburgh Festival, and then we got the phone call of, would you mind if the Lincoln Center archived the show?
Oh my God.
It's like, yeah, twist my arm. That was the thing. So I've got an archive show at the Lincoln Center.
Wow. Wow.
I've done all kinds of crazy things. Work with amazing people.
Wow.
So you just never know what I'm going to be doing, or who's coming through the door here. So many people come in, and they find each other here at the shop. And
right.
It's neat.
Wow. So thank you for giving us access. And he's now going to take us into the costume world. So it's Textile Tuesdays, and we are here with Shon again, and he's going to go over some of the pieces that he has. So this is the first piece that we're going to discuss. So Shon, go ahead. What do you have here?
This is the oldest piece in my collection. It's from the 1700s, and it's called the Calais bonnet. And they look like a collapsible wagon, the old wagon trains and stuff. This is one we purchased. I think I got this through eBay because I've always wanted one. Let me take this off and show you how this works. Okay. You see it collapses down like this.
And this is from the 1700s?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And you sort of pull it out, and it looks like a Conestoga wagon.
Oh, la, la. You're not seeing this every day. Like, look at this bonnet, from the 1700s.
They're really amazing. The color is incredible. You can see they used the reeds in here for this, and you can see the way it was lined in here with this very light kind of linen to give it some body.
And how do you keep your pieces preserved?
This one I actually just lay flat in a box and kind of keep it there just because she's so special. Like I said, I really love the piece. I've always wanted one, and it was just kind of fun to be able to finally acquire one of these little guys and to see how they were actually done and sewn together by hand. This is completely hand done. I mean, you look at this and just the work on this and everything.
Can we get a close-up of this? This is almost 300 years, 300 years old, plus. Yeah. Look at this.
It's pretty amazing that this stuff still exists and that it's silk and it's not, it's sort of dead, but it's not dead, which is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for running that piece down. And then we're going to go to the next piece. Oh my God, so excited.
We're going to show you a fun costume piece now. This is actually on Catherine the Great. This was done by Bob Mackie for Carol Burnett, we believe. There's 2 stories we're deciding on, which is this. It was either done for Carol, for Catherine Was Great, one of the movie parodies that she did, or it was for Beverly Sills for Carol and Beverly at the Met. We're not quite sure. We've sort of seen references on both things, so it might have been reused because Bob did reuse things. But it's an amazing, amazing piece. If you look at all
this intricate work.
Oh yeah, the beading, the stoning, the sequin work. I mean, this is incredible amount of work just on the forepart, and then also on the bodice. You know, and it's got this huge cape and the crown. I mean, the crown itself is incredible.
And how old is this?
This is probably from the 70s.
Okay,
I would think that's when they did this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's late 60s,
is
probably
amazing.
70s.
Can we get a close-up of this? Look at this amazing work. This is so intricate.
And it's really fun to kind of have these things around you to be inspired. I mean, you see this and look at the fabric, and then look at the trim and the rhinestones over the trim, and like, oh, these could have been earrings they just took apart and hung. And
it made a whole nother piece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's repurposing something, and I think that's important to remember when you're doing either fashion or costumes. You can repurpose things, and this has got some things to give you ideas to go, oh, I've got a whole bunch of these hanging earrings. We could just, you know, they could be a whole dress made out of hanging earrings.
Thing. Yeah, make it a thing.
Kind of fun.
So you're hearing it first here. So let's go to the next piece.
This is a great piece. It's from the 1880s. We'll bring her out so you can see her. This came through a collection.
I'm sorry, Shon. This is from what
1880s?
1880s.
This came through a collection of a friend of mine. His uncle had a vintage clothing store in San Diego, and this was one of the pieces. The fabric is amazing.
Yes,
the print is so, and then the chevron.
Oh my goodness!
But just look at this great textile. I mean, it's just the weave of, you got like the zigzag and the little herringbone.
Oh my gosh! This is beautiful.
And then just to look at the back of it too, how the chevron works in the back. I mean, it's just exquisite.
Look at this.
And this is taking a stripe, a chevron, and then a horizontal.
I love the design.
Yeah, you're getting all different kinds of things with the exact same fabric.
Right, and they're using the print to create a whole nother design.
Yeah, we haven't done anything different. It's all the same piece of fabric, and you can do this. And you look at like the Victorians and things, they did this. They would take and they would like do something on an angle as a trim, or something went this way versus this way. So they do some really interesting things with the exact same fabric. It's called using what you have.
Right? You heard it here, you guys. Using what you have. Next piece. Let's get
I'm going to bring her down.
Okay.
This is a very delicate piece. She's 1860s, and she's pretty amazing. This again came from the same collection as this bodice. You know, and she's over 100 years old at this point, and in rough shape, but if you look at the way things were done, like the braiding on this is just amazing. Again, it's adding a depth and a texture. All of her buttons are missing, but she had buttons down the front, and then the beautiful collar.
Yes.
You know, and just look at the fabric. The fabric is just amazing.
Look at that.
Again, you kind of like, let's have this reprinted. It's a great fabric.
And that's a good thing about design, because you can use texture to create depth. Oh my God, I love this braiding on the sleeve.
I know, it's just a little something, and then it probably had some really cool little either blue buttons on or something, or they may have had a texture, or it could even have been a dyed gourd seat or something, which was done.
Oh my
But such a really interesting piece. And the thing I really enjoy about this too is that because of this, you can actually see that they would line the skirts. And this is sort of like collar canvas or chintz.
Yes.
And it gives it body. And that's the thing we sometimes forget, that most of these Victorian skirts had some kind of lining in them.
Yeah, yeah.
And it makes them stand out. We started doing this with some of our skirts, and I could tell on stage which ones had been lined and which ones were not. They just moved differently.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see this, to go, here's a little technique you can do. You can line them with, we've been using pocketing.
Okay.
Because that's the closest thing we can find to the chintz that works, and it's really good.
There's a zipper to it. I love this. Okay.
That's actually on the dress form.
Well, then never mind. Next piece, Shon. What are you looking at now?
Look at this piece over here.
Okay.
This was a gift to me from the wonderful Marcia Kramer, who did Wendy and Peter Pan for many, many years, and a lovely lady. She's continued to work acting, and she got this from the MGM auction. And you can see here, there's Madge Evans, who you remember as Aunt Harriet from Batman, and Gene Kelly was very fond of her. So every time he would do a movie, she would be in the movie, and she plays Dora Bailey, who was the announcer of them all arriving, and this is the cape that she's wearing in the arrival, which was kind of fun. When I saw this, I went, oh my God, I own this piece.
Right?
So that was pretty cool. And we just did Sing in the Rain at La Mirada, and we put this piece on set in one of the windows on the rain set. So we're carrying on the tradition of Singing in the Rain, and it's a beautiful gold lame lined in silk velvet with this chinchilla stand collar, which is
my gosh, this is what I absolutely love, the chinchilla collar.
The collar, there's just the stand on the collar is so amazing. You know, you get this whole thing, which is so of its period and of its time. It's just the way that it sits around here and frames the face. It's really amazing.
Love it.
Yeah. And the fabric, I mean, that beautiful, you know, printed lame, basically, or woven lame. It just has this great design in it. It's stuff you don't see. No one is doing that right now.
No one has this. Okay.
Yeah.
And our last piece. The
last piece is really fun.
Okay.
Bring her down so you can see. This is another 20s piece. This was a gift to me from a school. It's a 1920s coat, and you know, it's pretty nice for the coat, and it's got really interesting embroidery up here, all this trapunto work or passementerie.
Detail.
Yeah, and
this coat feels so good, by the way, you guys. I wish you could feel it.
The silk velvet.
Oh my gosh, this is like butter. I wish you could feel it all. Oh my gosh.
So you get this sort of simple coat, right? And then you open the coat, and you've got this lining, and it's lame lining.
Can we get a close up of this lining?
Sort of Etruscan.
Yeah.
You know, Syrian. It's not Egyptian, but
it
it's
looks
Art
like
Deco.
Hieroglyphics. Like I love this design.
Because you're seeing the lotuses and all these things. And it's really an amazing coat. And again, it's one of those things, it's a surprise because you're not expecting the lining to be even more incredible in the coat.
Exactly. It gives more depth to the design.
Yeah, but talk about how much fun just to know to wear this and just, you know, flip a little bit to go, oh, look.
A little sense of element, if you will.
And they did a lot of that with a lot of period stuff, because you'll go into some of those like teen suits or 40 suits and 30 suits, and you open them up and there's this lining. And you're like, oh my God, this lining is incredible. And it was just to be there to be fabulous. To know you had something wonderful.
And how do you preserve this piece? How do you keep this
This one is actually preserved in a cloth bag. It's covered with a zipper to help keep it. Ideally, if we had a fur storage cooling area, all the furs would be in there. We don't have that luxury, unfortunately. But we do the best we can. Then we try to do pieces like this, you know, lay them down so they're not being stressed and so forth when you can.
Well, this is definitely, thank you so much for giving us access to these amazing pieces, taking us down memory lane in fashion history. And thank you guys for watching. That's it.